Joining us now is Professor Paul Levinson. He teaches social media and politics at Fordham here in New York. So he is familiar with, of course, our questionable weather of late. He's also the chairman of the Communications and Media Studies Department, and an old friend and a man whose writings I am quite a fan of, and a rather insightful character when it comes to all things social media. Jose Antonio Vargas joins us as well, and it's a pleasure to see both of you. How are you, Professor?
Good to see you.
Where should we begin? I guess at the outset, the question is, what is the appropriate role for the use of social media? It's obviously valuable.
Yeah.
The question is, what's the right role?
Well, as I pointed out in my 2009 book, New Media, it was social media that won the election by such a wide margin for Obama. In addition to the issues, the McCain campaign was almost totally ignorant of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as powerful ways of getting their message out to the people.
You agree with that, Jose, that the weaponry of social media was incredibly well utilized, especially relative to McCain?
Well, I think what's different about this campaign, though, is that this is the first time in which all of the candidates, Democrats and Republicans, are kind of all on the same page.
With the same weapons?
With the same weapons. I mean, back in 2008, as you were saying, I mean, I think John McCain said that he didn't even email.
Right.
So, yeah.
So how does that change the game now that we have, everybody from Trump?
Yeah.
Yes, well, and they're not actually all equal. If you think about Donald Trump, he's getting a lot of good publicity lately, but it's all old media. It's all on television. And therefore, unless he does something pretty soon on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, some combination of those three media, he's going to be out.
Well, my point about this, though, is, just because you build something doesn't mean people will come. I mean, I just did like a Facebook search like before I got here, and I was looking at, John Huntsman had like 1,000.
That was the China trade rep?
Yeah, so 1,900 people on Facebook like him. Barack Obama, 19 million people. Sarah Palin, 2.6 million. Donald Trump, I think the largest group was 30,000 on Facebook. So what is going to be the disconnect this time around between what the mainstream media covers and what kind of the social media grassroots people?
And at the same time, is it not true that there are people who are very powerful people who have very small social media followings?
Yes.
And there are people who have massive social media followings who actually have very little power.
It's a talent. If you think about Twitter and Facebook status messages, just to name two, you have to know how to say provocative things in a very few number of words. Obviously, Sarah Palin is very good at that. People in the Obama campaign are very good at that. It remains to be seen how Tim Pawlenty, who's deadly boring when he's talking, if he can do any of that online.
Well, I mean, the point here is each candidate has to use this in their own way. Like Sarah Palin, in many ways, is a perfect Twitter. You know what I mean? Just because somebody follows Sarah Palin on Twitter doesn't necessarily mean they're for Sarah Palin. I mean, I think this is where we have to be very careful here. How do we measure enthusiasm online? Just because somebody has, like, 2 million people, I mean,
3 million followers. So I want to get into something now, because you teed me up perfectly, Jose, and I appreciate that. We all understand that you can create what they call weak tie relationships now with social media. I can follow people I don't know on Twitter. I can follow people that are acquaintances of mine on Facebook. I can send email blasts. Those are the classic weak tie relationships. And weak tie relationships have incredible potent value if you can utilize it, which is really your point. But they're only useful for certain things. So, for instance, a weak tie relationship, really good to text money for tsunami relief. Send $10 to this text number. Getting out the vote, or getting out a message of some kind that tries to advocate the vote. It's probably debatable as to how much people actually vote based on Twitter, but at the very least information about candidates, etc., or things like, we call the 411, snow days, whatever it may be. Social media is great for that, and it plays really well into the campaign. However, there's an entirely different set of human relationships that exist. And those are strong tie relationships. So, for instance, the relationship I have with anybody who watches this TV show that I've never met is a weak tie relationship. I don't know, I've not met those people. Strong tie relationships are created by direct personal interaction with another human being, spending time, sharing intense experiences, shared experiences, period, and some form of personal connection. Strong tie relationships are very useful for different things, not snow days, not tsunami relief, but actually mobilizing to do hard things. The civil rights movement, the recruiting of the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, the fall of the Berlin Wall, lasting friendships. Obviously, the most recent one that I would argue that used weak tie and strong tie both was Tahrir Square in Egypt. Weak tie social networks, we're all getting together, this is on, we're going to do this. Strong tie, we have this shared experience of oppression and suffering such that I will sit here for the next 3 weeks, no matter if they throw camels at me, I'm not leaving. And there's no Twitter follower of mine, I can assure you, who's going to sit and let camels beat on them because I told them that that's what I want them to do. It requires that kind of strong tie relationship. And I thank you for indulging sort of all that background, but I think it's important to understand that to get to the question that I want to ask you guys, which is this. Is Barack Obama, Jose, a great weak tie president? Maybe the best we've ever had. But is the reason he's been so ineffective in Washington, D.C. once he became president is because his strong tie relationships, where you actually have to do the hard work of taking on special interests and renovating the tax code and dealing with the Republicans and whoever it is, ultimately the downfall, not just for Obama, but for any politician who doesn't have both strong and weak tie relationships.
Well, I don't think so. I think the problems that Obama's had in his presidency are due to traditional political issues.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is the Republicans have always been around 50%, and so have the Democrats. That's why Bush v. Gore was so close. And so Obama had a tough place.
And forget Obama, strong tie, weak tie, Jose, you get the last word.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between campaigning and governing. I mean, I think that in
and that was my point.
Yeah, there's a
weak
big
tie is a great campaign tool, strong tie necessary,
which is why
governing tool.
Obama in many ways was the first startup presidency, right? I mean, in many ways, coming to Facebook tomorrow is kind of a coming home for him, right? He was elected because of this Facebook
He's the best
generation.
campaigner, whether
But he has never really figured out, how do you govern with Facebook? How do you do that? How do you build consensus?
It's not a governing medium. By the way, Ron Paul's campaign in 2008 is important to look at.
That's
he had a
true.
huge internet presence, but he failed to convert that presence into votes.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, listen, I just don't see how you can actually do anything without strong ties. I agree weak ties are great for telling me about snow days and awesome for running for president. But if you have a healthcare system that's an insurance monopoly, if you've got a defense system that is basically predicated on control of the government, you've got an energy system that's based on a monopoly, you've got a banking system that's based on too big to fail. I have never seen a weak tie relationship I've never seen a Twitter stream that could take down that could break up the banks. It's great to see both of you, however. Professor Jose, thank you very much.